Sarah and I had known each other since we were kids. Everyone saw us as a perfect match. Before I left to study for my master's degree overseas, our relatives often joked, "So the next time you come back, it'll be for the wedding, right?" I didn't say anything, but I secretly hoped they were right. But then I was in a foreign country, and everything changed in an instant. There was an earthquake. Just before a large piece of the ceiling was about to fall on me, I watched, completely frozen, as Sarah moved away from me. She stumbled and threw herself over another male student nearby, shielding him with her body. Later, those two would perform together, winning many awards both at home and abroad. The news media called them the ideal musical pair. As for me, I would never be able to hold a violin again. I woke up and saw the white ceiling of a hospital room. The sharp smell of cleaning products filled the air. The intense pain in my body and the bright light from the window told me one thing. I was still alive. Sarah was asleep, slumped beside my bed. The smallest movement of my fingers was enough to wake her up. Her eyes looked tired, and her long hair was messy, a huge contrast to the beautiful, vibrant woman I knew. Our eyes met, and the tiredness in hers was quickly replaced by relief. "Michael, you're finally awake." She reached out to brush my hair from my forehead without thinking. I turned my head slightly, avoiding her hand. Her hand stopped in the air. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. "Michael, are you blaming me?" A doctor with a thick London accent walked in. He was blonde and blue-eyed, and he started to explain my injuries. I had just woken up, and my mind was unclear, so I only understood part of what he said. But his final words were shockingly clear in my ears. "Torn ligaments in your hand. The damage is bad. You might never be able to play the violin again." It felt like a sudden jolt. I sat up quickly in bed, my whole body shaking. "Isn't there anything else you can do?" He looked at me sadly, but told me the harsh truth. "We're very sorry." I squeezed my hands into fists, tears running down my face, refusing to believe what was happening. How much does a violin even weigh? My body was fine. I was able to take care of myself, and my hands still felt strong. Why my wrist? Why couldn't I play the violin? I ignored the doctors and nurses who were begging me to stay, and I pushed past Sarah, whose eyes were red from crying, as she tried to stop me. I ran out of the hospital in my gown like a crazy person. I stopped the first taxi I saw and went to the nearest music store. Before the owner could even finish saying hello, I grabbed a violin from the display rack. But the hand holding the bow was weak and shaking. I tried to play my favorite, most familiar piece, "Because of You." I knew the notes by heart. I could play it with my eyes closed. But now, not a single note came out correctly. It was like the rest of my life. A path of sudden changes, never going back to how it was supposed to be. The shop owner, probably thinking I was just a clumsy student who didn't understand the instrument, handed me his business card and tried to make me feel better. "The violin is a hard instrument to learn. Don't give up, young man. If you buy a violin here, I can recommend a teacher. I'll give you a discount on both, and I promise you'll learn. As long as you don't quit, there's hope." I looked down at my pale, weak hands. There was no hope. None left at all. Sarah finally found me. She was out of breath and breathing heavily. The wind was blowing through the half-open glass door. She carefully put her coat over my shoulders. "Michael, let's go back." Tears were blurring my vision. I spoke to her for the first time since I woke up. "Sarah, I can't play the violin anymore." She knew me well. She knew what that simple sentence really meant. It meant that over 10 years of hard work had been wasted. It meant I would never step onto the stage I dreamed of. It meant I would never get to play Because of You at my own wedding. Sarah watched me, her look intense. Her breath caught, and the hand gripping my shirt tightened. Yell at me, Michael. I know you must hate me. If I had known that light fixture was going to hurt your hand, I would have protected you without a second thought. I had no idea it would happen this way. I wasn't even thinking, I just wanted to protect his talent. He worked so hard to leave his small town and come here, carrying the hopes of his whole family, his whole village. He's very talented, he works hard, and I was so scared he would be crushed under the rubble, that his life would be ruined. Every part of her explanation made sense, but we both knew there was no going back. Sarah, who was always so proud, was crying now. My own eyes were red as I fought back the painful tears. My hand shook as I reached up to her face, wiping away a single tear. You made the right choice, the honorable one. If it were me, I would have protected him too, without hesitation. But in that fraction of a second, when the earthquake hit, my first thought was to find her. Her first thought was to run to Peter. In that moment, when there was no time to think, when it was all pure instinct, I was not her priority. As the terrible pain washed over me and I started to lose consciousness, the last thing I saw was her holding his trembling body, her eyes full of worry. I forced a weak smile. But you made your choice. You have to follow through. The meaning of my words caused a wave of fear in Sarah. She threw her arms around me. Michael, the bond we've had since we were children can't be replaced that easily. You're the one who has always been in my heart. I pushed her away. My thin reflection looked back at me from the glass door. Thankfully, my expression was determined and unyielding. I said, "It's okay. I don't mind anymore." So, what did Sarah say? On the other end of the phone, my best friend Daniel's voice was full of anger. She said she would prove it to me. You're not actually going to give her another chance, are you? We're over? Daniel sighed in relief, then immediately started insulting Peter. If you ask me, that Peter guy is a total trickster. What can he do besides tell a sad story? What does he have that you don't? Only a completely blind idiot like Sarah would fall for his act. So shameless. My hand squeezed the phone tightly, a bitter taste rising in my throat. It's not his fault, Daniel. This is all my fault, because I was the first one to fall for his act. Just as Sarah said, Peter had faced a difficult life to get to where he was. He had nothing. The violin was his whole world, his entire future. The first time he came to our class, he was wearing cheap, plain clothes, standing nervously on the stage, stumbling through an introduction in poor English. His eyes were full of fear. The other students laughed at him, calling him a country bumpkin from China. He was the third international student from China in our class. In this foreign country, I became the only person he could talk to openly, the one he could cautiously rely on. We became friends quickly, and even Sarah started talking to him. Peter really was dedicated and hard-working. That, combined with his gentle personality and the shy smile he gave everyone, meant the class slowly started to accept him. Even our music theory professor, who was famously difficult to impress, was touched by him. In the practice room, Sarah and I were struggling to choose a piece for the auditorium concert in 2 months when the professor walked in, holding Peter's hand. She made an emotional plea. You're so talented, Michael, and you come from a good family. You'll have plenty of chances to perform on the big stage. How about you let Peter have this one? Looking at Peter's hopeful yet timid expression, I thought about how many concerts like this I'd already been in. It wouldn't hurt to do what I could to help make his life a little better. I'd let him have this one chance. Who could have known that giving him this one chance would cost me half of my future? It was Peter's first time on a stage like this, and he was terrified just thinking about it. On top of that, he and Sarah had almost no connection in their playing. For 2 full weeks, the three of us spent all our time together while I helped him feel more comfortable. I don't know when the look in Sarah's eyes when she saw him started to change. The times she complained to me about not being able to practice alone with me became fewer and fewer. The time she spent worrying about Peter making a mistake during his performance grew more and more. Even worse, they slowly started practicing without asking me to join. At first, Sarah felt sorry for Peter, but soon that was replaced by admiration, excitement, and joy in her eyes. And I realized too late. Whenever Peter looked at Sarah, it was with complete adoration. The earthquake just gave me the final push when I was hesitating to make a decision. Sarah thought I was just giving her the silent treatment, waiting for her to apologize, to show me some sincere, definite proof of her loyalty. But the truth is, in that crumbling practice room, as I lost consciousness, I had already decided how we were going to break up. I dropped out of school. I made the decision without telling anyone. A violinist who could never hold his instrument again. What could be more ironic? I had no reason to stay here anymore. The day my withdrawal application was approved, I blocked and deleted Sarah from all my contacts and bought a plane ticket back home for that same day. I left everything behind, taking only the violin I had loved, but would probably never play again. Daniel came to pick me up at the airport. He saw me from a distance and ran toward me, tears starting to fall as he got closer. "Michael, you had everyone worried sick, you know that." He gently took the violin case off my back, his voice thick with emotion. "What are you going to do now? Go home and take over the family business? Does your aunt know you're back?" I shook my head. My mother never raised me to be an heir. She knew what my passion was and had put everything into getting me onto the international stage. How upset would she be if she knew it had all come to nothing, that I was just another ordinary person now? Besides, I didn't want my mom to worry about my future or about what happened with Sarah. The path ahead was long. I had money, good looks, and talent. I wasn't worried about finding my place in the world. Daniel's apartment was in a great location in downtown Boston. A few hundred yards to the left was Boston University, one of the most respected schools in the country. Not far from the university was the famous Trinity Church. As the car drove past the church square, I was completely captured by the sound of a violin. It was "Because of You." I rolled down the window and saw a young woman in the sun, surrounded by pigeons. She was wearing clean, simple clothes, her slender body holding the violin with grace. The sparkling water of the fountain behind her flickered as her bow moved back and forth. She seemed to be covered in a golden light. Daniel had stopped the car at some point. He said with a sigh, "That's Laura. She's a junior at BU. She absolutely loves the violin, but she's studying business because her family doesn't have much money. Still, she's at the top of her class in business, and she plays the violin purely for the love of it. She's really good, seriously amazing." "How do you know so much about her?" Daniel just made a clicking sound with his tongue. "You think your friend here just fools around? I like to walk around the BU campus and check out the pretty girls. I know all about this stuff." I looked at Laura again. Her playing was beautiful and smooth, every note perfectly in tune. But it lacked a certain pureness and stability. The violin resting on her shoulder was cheap and old. It reminded me of Peter. But she was different from Peter. The young woman's eyes were clear, her manner calm. If Daniel hadn't told me, I would have thought she was a wealthy, distinguished lady. The song ended. She gently looked up, and through the spring breeze and a group of white doves, our eyes met. The moment our eyes connected, I opened the car door and got out, carrying my violin case. I couldn't use this violin anymore anyway. Laura stared, shocked, as she took the instrument. In the warm sunlight, her gaze on me seemed to be burning. When she looked down and saw the label on the violin, her eyes widened. "This is far too valuable. I can't accept it." I smiled dismissively. "I hurt my wrist. I can never play the violin again. This instrument has been with me for many years, and I can't stand to see it sit in a corner collecting dust. If you don't mind, you can be the one to keep its music alive." Her voice trembled for some reason. "Is there really no hope at all?" "None." My heart felt tight, and a dull ache throbbed in my wrist. I had no idea how long it would take me to get over this. "Then is there anything I can do for you?" She probably felt uncomfortable accepting it for free. I tilted my head. "How about you play that song you were just playing at my wedding someday?" I really liked it. It was a dream I could never fulfill myself. This way, at least, it wouldn't be a total regret. She clutched the bow in her hand. "You're getting married?" I looked at the shimmering fountain behind me. "Someday. When my lucky lady shows up." Maybe it was my imagination, but after I said that, she seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. As I turned to leave, she suddenly called out to me, "Mister!" I turned back. She gave me a bright smile, her voice having the sweet clearness of a young woman. "I'll practice this song until it's perfect." Our entire conversation was overheard by my best friend nearby. Daniel was quite moved. "That's great. I'm glad that completely clueless fool Sarah didn't destroy your faith in love. I was worried you wouldn't be able to move on." His worry wasn't unreasonable. For as long as I could remember, I had always been with Sarah. Our families were close business partners and neighbors. Our parents were good friends, and we were born in the same year. There was no official arranged marriage, but it seemed to be a predetermined conclusion that Sarah and I would end up together. Even I thought so. It was as if I was born to marry her. My first innocent crush and the first feelings of romance were all because of her. Only now did I realize, looking back, that she had never made me any promises. We had never gone past that final boundary. She wasn't obligated to choose me. But maybe a change of pace would be good. A thought hit me. I didn't have to choose her either. I had always held on to hope for love. The only thing I could never let go of was music. The concert I missed was a huge success. Sarah and Peter's performance was perfect. Their connection was flawless. After I dropped out, Peter became her only partner. Later, they competed in various international competitions, concerts, and charity events. Their stages got bigger, their fame grew, and they won countless awards. The attractive duo caught everyone's eye, and the media called them the perfect pair. I wasn't trying to keep up with them, but in the age of the internet, you couldn't avoid catching bits of news about them. Rumor had it they were coming back home. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. After returning, I focused intensely on my studies for a year and got a teaching job. With my academic record, I was lucky enough to become a music theory instructor at Boston University's School of Music. My best friend said my timing was perfect. In a little while, BU will be celebrating its 70th anniversary. Many distinguished former students will be returning, including famous business people, renowned artists, and musicians. Daniel's voice was excited over the phone. "Maybe your true love will be among them. Bro, I'm counting on you to get me a good seat among all those bright-eyed college students. You're my only inside connection at BU." I chuckled. "I'll do my best." The class bell rang. I put my phone away, walked into the classroom, and began my lecture. The students who get into BU are smart, but for those who've been around music their whole lives, music theory is like a mandatory, easy class. Few of them were looking up, except for a girl in the back row who sat perfectly straight. A year had passed, but even from a distance I recognized her immediately. It was Laura. It was spring again. The thick leaves outside the window were moving, casting shifting light patterns into the room. Her eyes were focused on me, from beginning to end. By my count, she should be graduating this year. According to BU's traditions, she should be doing an internship or have already signed a job contract after graduation. After class, the room emptied out. As I was gathering my materials at the podium, I looked up and saw that she was the only one still in her seat. "Mister, long time no see. Should I call you Professor now?" I shook my head and smiled, making polite conversation. "You didn't sign an internship contract? What brings you back to campus?" She was a bit shy, the tips of her ears turning red. "I did, with a small company. The boss is really nice. The university is having its anniversary celebration, and I have a performance, so he let me come back to school. I'm self-taught, driven purely by passion, so I was worried my basics would affect my performance. I came to sneak into the class for a refresher. I never expected the new music theory professor would be you. A wonderful coincidence." In the year since I'd been back, I had cut off almost all social contact. My updates to my mom were vague. In a way, Laura, whom I had only met twice, felt like an old friend. My mood unexpectedly lifted. She said, "Mister, could I get your contact info? I'd like to ask you some questions about the violin in the future." My hand holding my phone tightened. I looked down sadly at my trembling fingers and shook my head. "I can't help you with anything." Her WeChat QR code popped up on her screen. With a ding, she quickly scanned mine. "No," Laura's reply was firm. "Your talent isn't just in your fingertips." I found it strangely funny. From the day we met, I was already a disabled person who couldn't play the violin. "How do you know I'm so talented?" Laura's voice was clear and sharp, her words spoken with careful seriousness. "Mister, I just know." She was really complimenting me, asking me to teach her the violin. For a violinist, a well-matched instrument is like an extra pair of arms. The violin I had cherished in her hands still produced a beautiful, melodious sound. It was a perfect match for her. Even if that sudden earthquake had never happened, my skill level might not have been better than hers. It was a real pity that someone like her, because of her family's financial situation, couldn't pursue her dream of music. On the roof of the old academic building, she faced the spring breeze and drew her bow across the strings. Each delicate note flowed like a gentle stream, pleasing to the ears. White, fluffy seeds from the willow trees danced in the air. It was as if, through her, I could see myself on stage again, shining brightly. A sharp pain pierced my heart again, and my eyes began to water. The music stopped suddenly. Laura lowered her violin and looked at me with a worried expression. I bent my head down, trying to hide my face with my hair, but my voice came out muffled. "Just some seeds in my eye. You keep going. Don't mind me." I was just being overly emotional. I heard footsteps, and she came to my side. A slender, fair hand brushed the hair from my eyes. My vision cleared. Laura sighed. "Who said you can't play the violin anymore?" Before I could understand my confusion, she pulled me to my feet. Laura spun me around so I was standing in front of her, then wrapped her arms around me from behind. Her heartbeat, light and strong, pulsed against my back through the thin fabric of our clothes. Laura rested the violin on my shoulder and placed the bow in my palm with her other hand. Her warm hand covered mine on my wrist. As she moved her wrist, I was guided to pull the bow across the strings. The notes came out. It wasn't a smooth, flowing melody. It was halting and awkward, but every note was in its proper place. It was still my favorite song. Laura's warm breath brushed against my ear. "Mister, I told you I'd practice this song until it's perfect." For the first time in over a year, I completed a full piece of music. Laura gently squeezed the tender scar on my wrist. "Don't run from it, Michael. As long as you want to, any place can be your stage, and I will always be your most dedicated audience." With the anniversary approaching, the university's arts departments were overwhelmed with work. Even I, a humble music theory teacher, was asked to be a music director. My main job was to guide the various student musicians in the class to perform a group piece with perfect coordination. Boston University was already famous nationwide, so its 70th anniversary was a highly anticipated event. The university took it very seriously, inviting elite graduates from all fields back to campus. They even released a cryptic teaser promising an important mystery guest. I didn't really care. I just never expected that the so-called mystery guests would be Peter and Sarah. Peter was a BU alumnus. During a break in the practice room, the students suddenly burst with excitement. "Whoa! The school finally announced the mystery guests! It's Peter, our senior Peter. He's gotten so famous overseas recently. Look at his style and everything. He's totally different from his photo on the wall of fame. Our school really knows how to make big moves quietly." That's not all. He's bringing his gorgeous, super famous partner with him. She didn't even graduate from here, so she technically has no reason to come. Someone stretched out their words suggestively. "Oh, isn't it obvious? He's doing it for love. I heard their appearance fees are sky high now. The university really lucked out, thanks to Peter." At that, the students' gossip mode went into full swing. "Hey, have you guys seen on X? A lot of people in the music world are hoping they'll get together, but they won't confirm or deny it. It's driving me crazy. They're probably just being private. They've been partners for so long and they're both so good-looking. It's hard to believe feelings wouldn't develop." Suddenly, all eyes were on me. A student came closer to me, trying to be friendly. Professor, I remember you also studied abroad in London. Were you at the same school as them? Can you give us the inside scoop? Are they for real or not?" My eyelashes fluttered, hiding the mixed emotions in my eyes. I shook my head and smiled. "I don't know them." The student walked away disappointed. Gazing at the willow branches moving in the wind outside, I let my thoughts wander. The truth was, I didn't know if they were together or not. 8 hours until the anniversary celebration. Everyone was in the final, frantic stages of rehearsal. My students made me proud. They had been practicing, diligently, and their performance on the rehearsal stage was almost perfect. Even the director couldn't help but praise them. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, the dean walked over. "Professor, could you please go check the dressing room backstage? Peter and his partner have arrived. The director is worried he might not have a comfortable instrument to play and asked us to check in on him, show some concern." I had been trying my best to avoid them, but the dean said what he had to say and then rushed off to deal with something else. Everyone was busy. I couldn't let my personal feelings get in the way of my work. I was actually quite calm inside. The only thing I dreaded was the thought of making pointless, fake small talk. There was no old friendship left to talk about between the three of us. After knocking and entering, I found Peter alone in the dressing room. We saw each other first in the mirror. He was still handsome, but his features now had a mature, sharp quality. Peter wasn't surprised to see me. He smiled, stood up, and said with a tone of regret, I never thought you'd be content to just stay here and be a teacher." His attitude made it clear that he knew all about my life now. And if he knew, Sarah knew too. I could handle the stage lights and applause, but I could also enjoy a quiet, ordinary life. Peter moved to hug me, but I walked straight past him, leaving him standing still. "There's nothing wrong with it," I said, all business. "I'm here to ask if you have an instrument you're comfortable with." Peter was taken aback. "Is that all we have to talk about?" What else was there to say? I could face him calmly, and I knew he wasn't the one to blame for what happened. But whatever friendship we once had was long gone. My gaze fell on his violin case on the sofa. "Looks like you have one. I won't bother you then." As I reached for the door, Peter suddenly called out to me. "Michael, are you blaming me?" I had no idea she would choose me in a life-or-death situation, and I never could have imagined the earthquake would cause irreversible damage to your wrist. "Sarah, Peter frowned. I cut him off coolly. I saw right through his little games. "You don't have to tell me any of this. She and I have nothing to do with each other anymore." Peter clutched the fabric of his suit jacket at his waist and let out a breath. "She and I will be together eventually. You won't fight me for her, right?" He glanced at my hand hanging by my side and finally smiled. "Right. You have nothing left. From now on, I'm the one who will be her partner, standing by her side." Nothing left? I found it ridiculous. I stated the facts calmly. "Peter, I just can't play the violin anymore. I didn't go broke. If you have time to say this to me, you'd be better off getting with her right now and holding on tight. You know, before things get complicated." His face turned pale, and he stammered, "We're focusing on our careers." I couldn't be bothered with his weak excuses. I walked out the door, as if he wasn't the only one focused on his career. As soon as I figured out how to explain all this to my family, I was going home to inherit the family fortune. Who had time to play these childish games with him? When I returned to the auditorium, the first person I saw was Laura. She was wearing a black evening gown that made her look more mature and elegant, but her forehead was wrinkled in a panicked search for something. The celebration was about to start. What could have her in such a state? Surely she hadn't lost her violin. I frowned and was about to go ask when she ran over and threw her arms around me. The pleasant, fresh scent of her perfume filled my senses. My body went stiff. I could feel her take a deep breath. Her voice was laced with anxiety. "Mister, where did you go?" A staff member walked by, and I gently pulled away from her embrace. Looking into the deep pools of her eyes, I assumed she was just nervous about performing. I tried to comfort her. "Don't worry. You'll play beautifully. It will be a success." Just as the words left my mouth, a student tapped me on the shoulder from behind. "Professor, someone just passed on a message. They said Ms. Sarah, Peter's partner, is looking for you everywhere. Is there something she needs? Should you go see her?" "I got it, thanks." My face was expressionless. I had zero desire to see her. Seeing how nervous even Laura was, I started to worry about my own students. I was about to head over to check on them when she suddenly grabbed my sleeve. Laura's head was down, so I couldn't see her expression, but I could hear a hint of complaint in her voice. "Mister, I'm really nervous. Please practice with me a little more. Don't go see her." Like a little kitten seeking comfort. The thought just popped into my head. "I'm not going to see her. Why don't you come backstage with me while I check on my students?" Laura's head snapped up, her almond eyes sparkling like stars. She curved her lips into a small smile. "Your work is important, mister. I can handle my nerves on my own." All traces of her previous anxiety and vulnerability were gone. Sarah and Peter were the first to take the stage, setting the entire auditorium on fire with a powerful, passionate piece. The cheers from the students almost drowned out the thunderous music. I stood in the dim shadows below the stage, almost blending into the darkness of the backstage area. Sarah couldn't see me. Over a year had passed. She was more mature, her performance style more varied. On the large stage, she was composed and graceful. Her connection with Peter was now equal to what we once had. Looking at them, they really did seem like a match made in heaven, straight out of a story of redemption. No wonder the rumors were flying. I was avoiding her not because I couldn't let go, but because I didn't want to hear her pointless apologies. It would be a waste of both our time. But you can't escape fate. My students went on stage, and their performance was brilliant. Everything went off without a problem. But as they were coming off stage, one of the cellists, suffering from low blood sugar, stumbled on the steps. In a panic, I pushed through the crowd and ran toward him, but about 15 feet away from the student, someone grabbed my wrist. Sarah stared at me, her eyes dark. "Michael, how long are you going to keep avoiding me?" In the distance, the student was already being carried toward the campus clinic. There was no need for me to go over anymore. I shook her hand off my wrist, my expression calm. "I'm not avoiding you. We just have no reason to see each other." Her face fell, and her voice was rough as she forced out the words. "It's been over a year. Isn't my punishment enough?" She sounded so deeply in love that I almost believed her. I sneered. "What punishment have I given you? I'm just living my quiet life. You're famous, winning awards, making a glorious return with Peter. You call that a punishment? Besides, you two earned all of it. It has nothing to do with me." Sarah's voice grew strained. She looked me in the eye and said, word by word, "I haven't had a single good night's sleep. We've known each other for so many years. You can't just let it all go." I stated a simple fact. We were just friends for many years. In all those years, she had never made me a single promise. It was I who had taken it for granted that we were lovers, that we were family. Sarah looked at me in disbelief. "How can you say that? Have you fallen in love with someone else?" I didn't want to get mixed up with her. I was also afraid that a few more words would cause us to lose control and draw attention. Just then, the stage lights came up. Laura walked onto the stage, cool and elegant under the spotlight. A fluid, seamless melody flowed from her violin. I pointed to her on the stage. Yes, as a matter of fact, she's my new love. Sarah's eyes turned red. She grabbed my arm like a madwoman and started pulling me. I was forced to follow her backstage. She pushed open the door to a dressing room and dragged me inside. She gripped my shoulders and shook me uncontrollably. Her eyes were crimson and filled with tears. "Michael, you told me I made the right choice, and then you left without looking back. It was an instinct to save him. I had no idea the light would fall and just happened to injure your wrist. How can I prove what's in my heart? Should time turn back so I could watch him die in front of us? I just felt like we already have so much. The world is so unfair. If something happened to him, his whole life would be over. Michael, I'm so sorry you can't play the violin anymore. I truly am. But we have so many other paths we can take. Please, don't throw our future away." "You see?" She kept saying how sorry she was for me, but every word implied it was no big deal that I couldn't play the violin. Yes, everyone thought it was no big deal. They were just relieved. Thank goodness the one with the injured wrist wasn't Peter. He only had his violin. But I was born into a prestigious family, a golden boy, a young master, raised in the palm of everyone's hand. What was losing a hand that could play the violin? I shook my arm free. "They don't get it, but you don't get it either. The violin was my only passion since I was a child. Standing on the big stage with you was my only dream. But my dream was completely shattered." Sarah's voice trembled. "But we have a future in other places." I pried her hands off my shoulders. "Sarah, this accident isn't what truly separated us. I've said it before, my injury was unforeseeable. But when you two were getting closer and closer under the pretense of practicing, when you couldn't bear to lose me, but couldn't push him away, did you ever think about today? Was it mutual admiration, or did you catch feelings, Sarah? You know the answer." Sarah shook her head in agony. "I really know I was wrong, Michael. I didn't know how to appreciate what I had. Give me one chance. Just one. Think of it as having pity on me." I knew how much courage it took for someone as proud and accomplished as her to say the word pity. But I was unmoved. In fact, I found it utterly ridiculous. In this simple yet overly dramatic relationship, I didn't feel pitiful because I was still young. I could start over after loving the wrong person. Peter didn't feel pitiful because he believed his actions had finally won him Sarah. Only Sarah, torn between two relationships, indecisively hurting two people, thought she was the most pitiful of all. "Sarah, you just want too much." The door was thrown open with force. Laura strode toward me, her slender figure shielding me. From her unchanged evening gown and the violin still in her hand, I could tell she must have come straight here after getting off stage. Laura was out of breath, and even her fingertips trembled as she touched my face. "Michael, don't look back." Sarah's gaze fell on the violin. She gave a bitter laugh. "You really love her, don't you? You even gave her your most beloved violin." My heart skipped a beat. I had only blurted out that Laura was my new love to get Sarah off my back. Now my old love and new love were in the same room. A confrontation was inevitable. The problem was, Laura was innocent in all of this. I took Laura's hand and started to lead her out. But Sarah stopped her. "Tell me, what can you do for Michael? Do you love him as much as I do?" Laura paused, her gaze dark as she looked back. She was usually so detached, her manner calm and cool. For the first time, I saw a spark of competitiveness in her, and a faint desire to win. She said, "You're not qualified to compare your pathetic scraps of love with mine." I was internally reeling, as if the 4 seasons were rapidly reversing in my mind. "I'm not qualified?" Sarah laughed. "You think I came here for some small university anniversary? I came for him at the height of my success. How am I not qualified? I've been watching over his life for over a year. How am I not qualified?" Unlike Sarah's fierce tone, Laura was perfectly calm, but her eyes were like bottomless pits. She stated a simple fact. "You're not. You say you came for him, but you see it as you gracing him with your presence. You say you've been watching him for over a year, but you knew where he was. You had countless chances to come back, to win him back, to be with him during his longest, hardest time. You didn't come back because you couldn't let go. Michael was gone, so you couldn't let go of Peter. You enjoyed the uncertain flirting with him, and you couldn't give up your opportunities abroad. You didn't come back to win Michael over. You came back successful and famous to beckon to him from on high, like a superior. Too bad. He's not going to look back." She had always been so serious, so silent, so careful with her words. This was the first time she had said so much, and it was all for me. Every word was a crushing blow. 1,000 thoughts tangled in my head. How did she know all the details of my history with Sarah and Peter? I couldn't tell if the love she spoke of was an act for the moment or something from the heart. Sarah was stunned into silence. After a long moment, She let out a contemptuous laugh. Take a look in the mirror. Are you even worthy of him? Before you fall for someone you shouldn't, don't just see their shining qualities. You should also weigh your own capabilities and status. She gestured dismissively at the violin with her chin. Just that violin Michael casually gave you is enough to keep you comfortable for the rest of your life. This was just a desperate personal insult. I squeezed Laura's hand. Her fingers moved, lacing with mine. Sarah, you have no right to insult her like that. I led Laura out the door. Worried her pride was hurt, I tried to comfort her gently. Don't pay any attention to what she said. She was exaggerating. This violin isn't that expensive. Under my anxious gaze, a smile slowly spread across the young woman's lips. Mister, you were worried about me. Just now you were defending me. Daniel looked like he was watching a TV drama. Damn, that was a total disaster. I'm seriously bummed I didn't get to see it in person. I collapsed onto the sofa, drained of energy. Daniel said with certainty, if Laura doesn't have feelings for you, I'll eat my hat. My thoughts drifted back to that day. I hadn't known her for long, and we hadn't gotten that close. I had buried that part of my past deep inside. How did she know so much about us? At the time, Laura had just smiled gently and said, Mister, you'll find out. The more I thought about it, the more something felt wrong. I sat up on the sofa, snatched the bag of chips from Daniel's hand, and stuffed a handful into my mouth resentfully. I mumbled my words, unclear. You think it's possible Laura knew me before? Do you remember her at all? She knows so much about me, trusts me for no reason. It doesn't make any sense. Daniel licked his lips, his eyes drifting toward the window as he mumbled, Uh-huh. No, I don't think so. She's like 3 years younger than us. True. After the anniversary celebration, my life returned to normal. Laura would still pop into my classes now and then. She managed her internship and her music, a true sign of her passion. It was a shame to see someone with her musical talent be ignored. I even thought about helping her out once she graduated, introducing her to some people to give her a leg up, provided she could support herself. Until my mom called. Michael, what kind of studies are keeping you from coming home? Sarah's already back. Weren't you two studying the same thing? I stammered. I wanted to continue my studies. Cut the act. My mom got straight to the point. Boston University is a good school. You even managed to become a professor. I never thought I'd live to see my son land a permanent position. I bit my lip, annoyed. Mom, you know everything. You think I'm an idiot? You think I didn't hear about the earthquake in London? That I don't use the internet and haven't seen that your performance videos stopped over a year ago while Sarah has a new partner? Your wrist was injured and you wouldn't even tell your mother? I've been waiting for you to tell me yourself. How long were you planning to hide it from me? I looked down, kicking at a loose stone on the ground. I was just afraid you'd be disappointed. Disappointed? My mom's voice rose. My son is so talented he could make a name for himself doing latte art if he couldn't play violin. What would I have to be disappointed about? So you also know that Sarah and I aren't together anymore? The Michael and Sarah families had always been close. My dad's business partners had been talking about coming to our wedding since the day we left for school together. My mom sighed. There's a charity event next week. You should come back for it. Come and show your face. I'll make a few jokes, and everyone's smart enough to get the hint. They won't bring it up again after that, okay? My mom's tone shifted again. All of that aside, there's a much more serious issue at hand. When are you going to let Mr. Jones's daughter go home and take over the family business? The man finally gets his daughter back to the company near graduation, and now her head's been completely turned by you. Mr. Jones is waiting, so anxiously he's calling me about it. Mr. Jones's daughter? My mom said it with certainty. Don't think I don't know. You and Laura Jones have been getting very close." I was stunned. What happened to coming from a poor family? How did she suddenly become the sole heir to Jones Industries? So her last name, Jones, was the Jones from Jones Industries? My mom casually recalled, "Oh, by the way, she'll be at the charity event too. You should dress to impress." After hanging up, I opened my chat with Laura, almost as if I were controlled. The most recent message was some heartfelt encouragement I had sent her. "Where you come from doesn't define you. You're so talented, you have a bright future ahead of you." Her reply was polite. "Thank you, mister. I'll work hard." Looking at it now, it felt more than a little ironic. Her status was important, her background even more impressive than mine. And then I thought about the small company she said she was interning at. So that small company was called Jones Industries. Wow, she really tricked me. But thinking back, she never actually said she was poor, did she? I'd been misled by Daniel from the very beginning. Thinking of this, I sent a text to Daniel, laying out the facts. Daniel replied quickly. "Michael, you found out?" What did that mean? He knew even before I did. I called him immediately, but no matter how much I pressured him, Daniel wouldn't say another word. Sarah and Peter posted on social media announcing they would never work together again. The music world was in an uproar. After all, they had built their careers together overseas and returned home together. The golden couple in many people's eyes. I saw the news on my way home. The internet was buzzing with speculation. Most people were saying Sarah had wronged Peter, because besides the joint statement, Peter had also posted a solo message. It was very melancholic. "The clouds have parted, but the moon isn't bright. My moon will never be full again." I swiped past it and locked my phone. When I got home, everything was as I remembered it. My mom was there to greet me with a big red banner. "Welcome home to my favorite professor." This was a wealthy neighborhood. My parents had bought a large house halfway up a mountain for peace and quiet. On the other side of the winding mountain road was Sarah's house. The gardenias in her house's courtyard were in bloom. The fragrance drifted far, and I could smell it from here. Gardenias stand apart from other trees, a rarity in this world. Sarah was the one who told me that quote. She said she would be the most loyal person by my side. I was moved to tears at the time. Thinking back on it now, what a load of nonsense. All sweet talk and deception. Laura's face suddenly popped into my head. "I will always be your most devoted audience." Forget it. My violin playing now was worse than sawing wood. I wasn't home long, before my mom dragged me on a whirlwind of shopping, spa treatments, and styling sessions. That evening, I was dressed in a suit, ready for the event. These so-called charity events were on the surface about successful business people giving back to society. In reality, they were a platform for shamelessly boosting public image through media coverage. Everyone here, whether a famous CEO or a rising industry star, spent their time trading compliments, making business pitches, and seeking collaborations. I had no energy for such socializing. I was just here to show my face, giving my mom a chance to use her social skills to casually drop the fact that Sarah and I had gone our separate ways. After a few people we were talking to dispersed, my mom and I both let out a sigh of relief. In the distance, I saw Daniel's father. I blinked, confused. Daniel's father was at this event, so why hadn't Daniel mentioned he was coming back with me? He had clearly seen me, too. I took the initiative. "Uncle, isn't Daniel back yet?" He had always been rebellious, with very different views from his father. I was used to hearing about their arguments from my mom, but Daniel's father didn't complain to my mom this time. Instead, he looked at me, hesitating slightly. "Daniel said he's afraid to see you, that you might beat him up." "No, Michael, You've had a good temper since you were a kid. What did he do to you? Are you two fighting?" My mom and I exchanged a look. My mom looked shocked. Wasn't Daniel just speaking badly about me? I hesitated, speaking with little confidence. "As far as I know, we're still very close." Daniel's father frowned, about to say more when a female voice came from behind him. "Uncle, my dad is looking for you." The voice was sweet and clear, very distinctive. It was Laura. I turned, and our eyes met. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her gaze darted away from mine, her guilt practically written on her face. I muttered under my breath, "Now, with Alex, we're no longer very close." She and Daniel had known each other all along. In fact, Daniel was her cousin. The two of them had planned together, keeping me in the dark. That Daniel, had he been minoring in acting for the past 2 years while I was away? How did he manage to tell me with a straight face that Laura came from a poor family? So what was the purpose of all this? I stared at Laura's exquisite face. The answer was obvious, yet I hesitated, thinking. She had been planning this for a long time. Daniel's father left. My mom shot me a suggestive, knowing look, and then turned to catch up with her friends, leaving just Laura and me standing a short distance apart, our eyes locked. She cleared her throat and walked over cautiously, looking very guilty. "Mister, let me explain. Sarah said I wasn't good enough for you, so I panicked and ran home to live off my parents for a bit. I didn't mean to lie to you." "Why did you do it?" Looking back now at how we met, it all seemed too coincidental to be true. The church square I just happened to pass, the sound of "Because of You" that just happened to be playing, her just happening to show up in my class. "Don't hide anything from me anymore. I really want to know the truth." My face was calm, but the heart in my chest was beating wildly. I was filled with anticipation for the truth she was carefully choosing her words to reveal. Laura's lips moved, and she began to speak slowly. "Mister, my name is Laura, not the one and only." My memory was suddenly pulled back to the summer of my 8th grade year. Daniel had a little cousin who, to avoid doing her homework, had snuck out of the elementary school building and hidden in the old, abandoned junior high building. When Daniel and I found her, she had been hiding for a whole day. Her eyes were red and puffy, full of complaint, and she was muttering defiantly, "They're always pushing me. Is there nothing else in this world besides homework? Did they have me just to make me do homework?" A kid 3 or 4 years younger than me had just voiced my innermost thoughts. I completely agreed. To cheer her up, I crouched down with her and asked patiently, "What's your name?" "Laura." "Huh?" The name was quite common, and my brain stopped working for a moment. The little girl sighed and slowly explained the origin of her name. "Because my dad says my mom is his one and only." I was even more confused. She pouted. "Mister, my name can't be the one and only." Oh, I finally got it. Her name was Laura, a homophone for only. "Oh, for crying out loud, Laura, you're not a mute! What's the big deal about saying a few more words?" Daniel appeared out of nowhere, dressed in inconspicuous casual clothes, clearly having come here on a whim. He shot Laura a look of exasperation. "There's no way you'll win Michael over like this." With that, he pressed a notebook with yellowed pages into my hand. "Michael, see for yourself. I didn't mean to lie to you, but this blockhead has been silently guarding you for so many years. When the opportunity finally came, I just couldn't bear to see her miss it, so I came up with this plan. Just take a good look at her heart. All the other dumb ideas were mine." With trembling hands, I opened the first page. The handwriting was childish. "I like this older boy, but there's always an annoying girl with him, Sarah. My enemy for life. My hands shook as I flipped through the notebook. A tear fell, blurring the faded ink. From junior high to high school, on the tree-lined path I always took home, she stood in the second-floor bookstore, watching me countless times. On the last page, the handwriting was new. She had written only one sentence. Watching Michael buried in his studies at his desk by the window from across the way, I feel like I could watch him for a lifetime and never get tired of it. The notebook was thick, stuffed with a heavy stack of papers. I accidentally shook them loose, and they scattered on the floor. They were countless plane tickets to and from London. For so many years, she had stood silently behind me, watching me as if her eyes were following her own guiding light. The childish entries in the diary, the dozens of round-trip tickets to London. This was her entire youth. The proof of her silent devotion. If Sarah hadn't wavered between me and Peter, this crush of hers, lived in darkness, might never have been spoken aloud. Only this yellowed notebook bore witness to the years she was captivated by me. During this time, I often marveled at my luck. In this past year of despair, I had met Laura. She understood me, encouraged me, and let me feel the vibrant magic of the violin again. But she had walked with me through far more than just this darkest of years. She witnessed my beginnings, saw me at my peak, and then carefully picked me up when I fell. I was suddenly grateful. Thankfully, I had always believed that love would find me, so I wouldn't push away the person who loved me. This time, her unwavering devotion was our love. My voice was hoarse, my eyes blurry with tears as I looked at her, but my tone was firm. Laura, for all the long years to come, please stay with me. Daniel was so excited he was about to howl at the sky. Holy crap, I never dreamed this day would come. My ship has sailed. Michael, I'm basically a hero, right? I better get a seat at the main table at the wedding. I was crying and laughing at the same time. I wiped my tears away messily. More than a hero. He basically held Cupid's arrow to my heart. Before Laura and I left the event, I saw Sarah again. She stood before us, defeated and resentful. Laura, you've had your eye on him for so many years. What right do you have? You should have never been able to get Michael. Faced with Sarah's provocation, Laura was remarkably calm. She even extended a hand politely. Thank you. This unexpected thanks left Sarah a little confused. What do you mean, thank you? Thank you for being so blind and ungrateful. It made me wait all these years, but finally my wish has come true. The corner of my mouth turned up slightly. I thought she was taking the high road. Turns out, she was going for the kill. On a quiet evening, I was drying Laura's hair. The hum of the hairdryer filled the room with a sense of calm domestic life. She spoke up. Mister, I think we need to add a clause to the promise we made when we reunited. I didn't understand. What clause? Her reply was very serious. I won't be playing Because of You at your wedding. I'll be playing it at our wedding. Mister, let's get married. I've been dreaming of playing that song on a stage that belongs to us.